Greetings and welcome, I'm Ash, and today I would like to talk to you about Aporia Beyond the Valley. A relaxing first-person puzzle adventure set in a world full of ancient technology and long-overgrown ruins. It is going to be up to you to discover what caused the downfall of the once great civilization, what exactly the miraculous and life-giving amber fluid truly is, and most importantly of all, who in the world are you? So if you're a fan of exploration games and you're interested in going on a journey that will take you through some truly memorable locations, allow me to share with you my thoughts on Aporia now that I've finally reached the end myself. The very first thing I noticed when I stepped into Aporia was the downright spectacular visual design, and this was something that followed me from the very beginning to the very end. Aporia was created in CryEngine, so its graphical fidelity was pretty much guaranteed from the start, but honestly, I'm still impressed with the world the developers have managed to conjure up. Everything from the dimly lit forests to the musky ancient temples oozes with atmosphere, and I had a great deal of joy exploring these forsaken remnants. What I especially liked, however, was how all of the seemingly magical elements were implemented into the world as a whole. These items weren't anything unique or special to the civilization that once inhabited these lands. It was just another fact of life, and that alone made the story much more grounded and much more interesting to follow. What also helped the feeling of immersion was the rather impressive audio design. The soundtrack rarely has any bombastic moments that hype you up for events to come, but what it does offer fits perfectly with Aporia's world. If you're crossing a raging river and you can barely hear yourself think over the sound of deadly rapids, the soundtrack will enhance that feeling of terror as you slowly make your way across to the other side. On the other hand, if you're just walking through an ancient temple with only the occasional frog for company, the soundtrack will match that mysterious and enchanting atmosphere almost perfectly. The music might not be something you put on during your drive home, but when it comes to immersion, it manages to do its job quite admirably. While Aporia likes to call itself a puzzle adventure, it is most similar to what people consider a walking simulator. There are still puzzles to solve, mind you, but they are few and far between. Instead, you will spend most of your time walking, running, climbing, and jumping across a variety of terrain in search of mysteries to solve. You will initially be fairly limited in where you can go and what you can explore, but once you get past the 1 hour mark, the world will open up and you'll be able to head in pretty much any direction you choose. Oh, and if your main problem with the whole walking simulator genre is the slow speed at which your character moves through the environment, worry not, as Aporia is more of a running simulator than anything else. I personally don't mind the whole walking simulator thing, as I really do love exploring derelict ruins, but I also do wish there were some more intricate puzzles to solve. From my entire playthrough, I've only been stumped twice, and on both occasions it wasn't the puzzle itself that took me for a ride, but rather my inability to notice the obvious clue on a nearby wall. For a game that likes to tout its interesting puzzle mechanics, this really shouldn't be the case. I'm not expecting the puzzles to be so difficult only the most hardcore players could ever hope to solve them, but there should at least be some sort of challenge present, because otherwise, why even bother having puzzles at all? Speaking of challenge, figuring out the story in Aporia has proven to be a refreshingly tricky affair. The entire narrative is told through either short animations with absolutely no dialogue to help you out, or through the various paintings you'll encounter during your journey. Thankfully, the characters are all clearly identifiable and surprisingly expressive given the medium, so what could have easily ended up being an exercise in frustration is actually a more interesting puzzle than the puzzles themselves. If you're wondering what exactly the story is about, I'm afraid you won't hear this from me, as that would kind of ruin the whole experience, but what I will say is that you should pay close attention to your surroundings. You can predict quite a few of the upcoming plot points just by being observant and connecting the right dots, and this sort of design is definitely something I can respect. The way Aporia tells the story is certainly intriguing, but the whole system is not without its flaws. Since the entire story needs to be told without any sort of dialogue, most of the important revelations happen at predetermined locations, which means that all of the cave paintings you'll discover through pure exploration are just simple fluff. They are genuinely pretty to look at, and they do help flesh out the world just a little bit, but as a reward for clever exploration, they are just not that compelling. In most other adventure games, finding a hidden path through a waterfall would lead to either an audio log or at least some sort of unique item. But in Aporia, these types of secret locations only yield a single picture with barely any substance to it. A real shame, since everything about Aporia urges you to go out into the world to discover all of the secrets, only to find that pretty much nothing but disappointment awaits when you get there. As I mentioned earlier, Aporia quickly transitions from relatively linear levels into a proper open world, and this is both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, it feels really good to venture out into the wilderness and see what sort of nonsense you'll be able to find this time around. But on the other hand, trying to navigate your way to any specific location is a ridiculously difficult task. Unless you memorize the entire region, the map is going to be almost entirely useless since it doesn't show your position. So I really do hope you like randomly meandering through the forest at night while searching for that one location you still haven't visited. Now, I am aware that this is a bit of a petty complaint, and that I'm probably too stupid to read a real map, but for a game that's all about going on a relaxing journey, Aporia sure is stingy with any sort of directions. All of my random wanderings also exposed quite a few bugs, and while most aren't an issue, there are a few that straight up annoy me. The first and biggest glitch I've encountered so far is related to ladders. Instead of just climbing up as a normal person, you do a bit of a teleport when you're at the very top, which not only looks incredibly out of place and really awkward, but it also has a chance to teleport you to a slightly incorrect position, right above the pit you literally just climbed out of. The second issue I have are the relatively inconsistent invisible walls. Sometimes you can jump on rocks and straight up climb a mountain in order to discover a hidden area, while other times you can't even walk anywhere near the rocks before you get bounced back. And sometimes you can straight up avoid entire puzzles by doing a couple of obvious jumps. It is important to say that none of this was enough to sour my experience with Aporia, but I would definitely want to see these types of issues fixed in the next couple of updates, as they can really break your immersion and take you out of the whole experience. Aporia Beyond the Valley, much like every adventure game that fits the walking simulator criteria, is not going to be for everyone. If you are looking for tricky puzzles or plenty of action, I'm afraid you just won't find that here. But if you're looking to undergo a relaxing and slow-paced journey through some truly lovely locations, you might just find Aporia to be up your alley. It's not going to revolutionize the genre, and it most certainly is not going to light the world on fire, but it is a solid exploration game with some interesting ideas behind it. So if you like what you've seen so far, chances are you're going to have fun with Aporia. Thank you guys for watching, and if you enjoyed this, or even if you didn't, please do let me know. And with that said, I hope you guys have a nice day, and I'll see you soon.